What does a contraction feel like? How do I know if I'm in labor? And what does the day of labor look like? Wait, is this normal? Hey, I'm Heidi Campbell, a certified birth doula, host of this podcast, Birth Story, and owner of My Doula Heidi. I have supported hundreds of women through their labor and deliveries, and I believe that every one of them, and you, deserves a microphone and a stage. So here we are. Listen each week to get answers to these tough questions and more. Birth Story, where we talk about pregnancy, labor, deliveries, where we tell our stories, share our feelings, and of course, chat about our favorite baby products and motherhood. And because I'm passionate about birth outcomes, you will hear from some of the top experts in labor and delivery. Whether you are pregnant, trying desperately to get pregnant, I hope you will stick around and be part of this tribe. Episode 6. I promised when I started this podcast that I was going to interview all the ways in which you could become parents. So today I have two dads, Johnathon and Blair, in their adoption journey. And it's so cool because they got to be in the delivery room when their son was born. So this is a big shout out to everyone out there who has adoption in their heart or as part of their story. And I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm just going to get us started. So Johnathon and Blair, thank you so much for letting me interview you guys today. And as we were getting ready for this, I got a text message from Johnathon that was like, hey, we were just leaving an adoption meeting and now we're headed to dinner. And so can we start there because I'm curious. So are you definitely
what's happening now?
Yeah, let's start with what's happening now because I just tell everybody who you are and what's happening now.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnathon.
And I'm Blair. We've been married for...
See if you can get this right.
Oh, boy. We've been together for 16 years.
Almost 17.
Almost 17. And we've adopted 2 kids. And we're in the process of adopting a third. Jonathan?
That's true. We are in the process of adopting a third. Crazy, challenging, a little different route. We're going through Home of Little Wonders here in New England, which they basically work with the Department of Social Services. So it will not be an infant, which brings its own set of challenges, but we're really excited to take on that adventure.
The last 2 adoptions were private adoptions, meaning our first adoption went through an agency, and it was it was much more of a process in that sense. And then our second adoption was mostly private in the sense that, we had a lawyer involved in it. But they're both open adoptions. So I don't want people to think they're private adoptions and that they're closed.
Oh, no, we're
open. We're open. And so now we're going through the process again, like John was saying, and we're much more it's almost a foster to adopt situation, but these are kids who their goal is they want to be adopted eventually.
We like kids. I mean, I always joke with Blair, if I could get him pregnant, we'd have 18.
I love this. Okay, so I have so many questions. I'm so curious about adoption, and that's why I'm talking to you guys today. But when you're going through the system that you're going through, do you get to say I am only interested in having a little boy or a little girl or siblings?
So funny that you asked that. So today we went through a meeting what's called it's kind of like your one sheet, if you will. It's because the Department of Social Services, they have tons of kids, right? And you kind of feel bad saying oh no, I don't want a child with that type of maybe condition or that type of challenges. But however, I think it's really important to know, especially when you already have kids in your home, to know your limitations on what you can and cannot do, right? We know our lifestyle, we know our work schedules, which are both crazy. Me being a paramedic and Blair being a TV news anchor, we're all over the place. We kind of like it that way. But, I think it's important to know. So we did go through that today. And, do you want a boy? Do you want a girl? We are open to both a boy and a girl. And we're also really open to sibling groups. And I actually kind of hope that. We don't want to go as far as the Brady Bunch, but pretty close.
We're getting there.
I'm not dropping a minivan.
So you may go from 2 kids to 6 kids very quickly.
Oh,
Wow.
no. Let's not get carried away, Heidi. No, I think like we said up to potentially 3 with the sibling group. So I think 5 would be, 5 kids. I don't know about that. Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, the social worker, said, what would you guys be open to? Jonathan said initially, he goes, 3. And she basically had to correct us and say, that's a lot more than what we probably can handle right away. And so we accept that, and that honesty and honest conversations. And
because
we're like 1 or maybe 2. We'll see.
When you adopt a child from the services, there's always some kind of trauma involved. Right. And with most kids with adoption, there's always going to be some type of trauma involved, but there is, so it's important to make sure that you can meet the needs of that child or children. So Kate plus 8, Johnathon and Blair probably isn't going to happen. But.
I mean, I could be like the very first to interview you guys before you have your own TV show, about this whole thing. I love this. No, I really love your hearts. And so if they just called you like tomorrow and we're like, we have 3 siblings, do you have to buy a new house?
No.
Okay. I was thinking, where would I put all of these children if that happened? I would be like, you sleep on the floor.
So when we lived in the city, we
left from the peace and quiet of Lake Norman and Cornelius, and God, we loved it there. I miss it all the time. But we wanted a challenge, is what we normally like, and we moved to the middle of Boston, and we downsized to a little over 1,000 square feet. And we just thought, I just thought all of our stuff could fit. And after climbing over chairs and bookshelves just to get down the hallway, we didn't know what to do. So we just started sitting some stuff out on the curb, and people really liked us because they would come by and just grab it.
Not kidding.
And I would sit up all night just watching the people grab it because I was fascinated.
That's also a whole nother TV show. So
that's a whole nother podcast.
But I'm really
pissed
pissed
that people do here in the city. That's funny.
I'm really pissed that we got rid of our white leather chair that I really liked, because now we have a house that we could fit that white leather chair and have the perfect spot for it, but we don't have it.
Yeah, and new kids. So, well, I'm really just thinking about you guys. So I hope it goes quickly, and I hope it's the right, it will be the right perfect fit. But
that's what we said today.
Incredible. So.
We appreciate that, and we said that today. We said it's what there is a plan for us, and there's a plan for our child.
Yeah, we very much believe God's already got it figured out, right? So we don't really worry if it happens today, if it happens next year, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. We don't believe it was by accident that we're dads to Zeke and Cash. We believe that was well predetermined. Yeah. Those kids, it's weird, kind of fit like a glove into our family, or we fit into their family. I'm not sure which one, but it's perfect. Well,
that brings me to let's start with Zeke's adoption, because I feel like that kind of went fast for you guys, a lot faster than you expected it to go. And so before you dive into, I just want to back up, and will you just share, when did you decide, we're going to adopt and we want to have a family? When did that moment happen for you guys?
Well, I think it kind of evolved for us. I mean, Jonathan all along knew he wanted kids, and I always said, I don't really know what that looks like for us. And I was always the one holding us back, in the sense of, I don't know how 2 men do this and do it successfully. One who's on television. I didn't know how to do that. And I was very naive in my thinking. And so Jonathan was always nudging at, we can do this. We can do this.
I'm like, yes, we can.
And I don't think he ever, thought otherwise. And so for me, it's pretty vivid. And, we had gotten to a point right before 2012, and we knew we wanted to. And we were on a cruise with my family, and we were walking to dinner, and John says, well, we're gonna tell your family tonight that we're gonna adopt. And I was nervous to kind of say the words publicly, or just out loud. And we sat down at dinner and we shared it with everybody. And that was Christmas time in December of 2011, and Zeke was born July 8th of 2012.
Well, I think
and a lot happened in that time, but that's how quick it happened.
As you know, through our community and Watershed, we had a lot of people, like especially Billy and Tracy, that were so powerful in like directing us on like how to adopt and what to expect, because we weren't, like we didn't know the legal ramifications of it. Like I just don't take no for an answer, so I knew we were going to adopt, I knew we were going to get married, I knew we were going to have kids because that's what we wanted, and we absolutely can have that. And so, but I just didn't know what that looked like legally, logistically, kind of thing. And they were very paramount and like helping guide us in that, and connected us with a lady in Charlotte that was great. And we walked in and we sit in her office and we're like, we're ready to wait like 2 or 3 years. And she kind of laughed and she's like, based on your answers, like all you guys have said is that you will take any race, you will take any sex, and any reversible medical conditions that we are aware of course, with any child. You don't know how they're going to be born. But at the time we were open to any reversible medical conditions. And now with a little knowledge, we've kind of changed that a little bit too. But anyway, so she kind of laughed and she's like, "Oh, we could have you a baby in 3 months." And we were like, "That's funny."
Yeah. I never believed that. I still thinking about it now when you talk about it.
We kind of moved kind of slowly. I'm kind of the, okay, let's do this right now. And Blair's like, okay, this is how we're going to do this. And he kind of does the heavy lifting. I'm the dreamer and you kind of figure it out. But, I mean, we kind of started the process and had a few meetings. In the first few cases that we got, we said no to. It just didn't feel right. Blair was covering both the Republican and Democratic National Convention, some of the biggest things in his career. And I had got a job promotion in Charlotte as a education paramedic, and part of the education team. And it just didn't feel right at the time. They kept giving us cases, but it didn't feel right. Although we had moved the dogs out of what was the nursery because our dogs had their own bedroom, and we did paint the walls, and some random neighbors gave us diapers that I put in the attic, and that was that.
They sat there for a while.
And they just kind of sit there. And then all of a sudden, June 26th, we got a phone. We had met with our adoption person that does our home study in Charlotte for like the second round. And she's like, everyone wants to move really quickly with you guys. It seems like you guys are kind of slowing us down a little bit. And like, yeah, like whenever. And she's like, but I have this case and I just feel like that you guys should look at it and our situation. And we did. I remember looking at it at work without you.
Right.
And I called you and said, let's meet for lunch. And we met at the bagel place on exit 23 in Huntersville. And we both were like looking through it. And we both started. Did I have this mixed up?
You do have it's okay. I was gonna let you kind of roll with it, but
go ahead. Fix it.
We were having
I love this because this is like pure parenthood right here, where you like can't remember which child.
It is
like what day and what time. Yes, I love this. So just keep going.
3 days there that really gelled, and where life moves so quickly, and that we decided this in 3 days, and from start to finish. And so it does kind of run together. But we were actually at dinner that night. Jonathan, you had looked at the profile that day, and you said, you need to look at this profile. And I said, yeah, okay, let's look at it tonight. And we met for dinner after work with a family that they had gone the route of surrogacy. A same-sex couple had gone the route of surrogacy.
You're right, yeah.
And so we had dinner with them.
It's all coming back to Jonathan now.
Right. So we had dinner with them. And so we were actually considering surrogacy at that for maybe 5 seconds. And we had dinner with them, and we left there like, wow, that was a lot. And we got home that night, and he said, you need to look at this profile. And I remember lying in bed, and I was just reading through it, and there was a sonogram picture in there of what was Zeke. And I don't know if it was that or what, but it definitely spoke to me. And I said to Jonathan, I said, there's really no reason why we should not pursue this.
We both started crying, like looking at the profile, and we're like, this is our child. We knew from the moment we opened that up that was supposed to be our child.
And so the next morning we let our agency know, look, we're really interested, but also at the same time, when you're going through a private adoption route, you have to be prepared to have the money up front. It's very expensive. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars. And we honestly weren't at that moment, we were not ready to pull the trigger and send $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 across the country. We just weren't. And so they said,
we're nervous.
Yeah, we were just, concerned about it. So next morning,
I'm going to pause you guys right there, because myself included, and I think some people that are listening that are interested in adoption, this might be surprising to some people that private adoption is that expensive. So can you just dig in a little bit on where that money goes?
Well, I don't know if we're totally best suited to answer that, because it can go a lot of different ways.
A lot of it goes to legal fees,
right? A ton goes to legal fees, and we worked with 3 different agencies, I think, in the process of Zeke.
So, no, more than that. We had our agency in Charlotte. The birth mother had an agency in California. I'm sorry, in Seattle, Washington. Zeke had an agency that represented him in California, and then the overall adoption agency was also in California. So you actually have 4 agencies. So legally, there's a lot involved, and there were some issues legally that we may have to address. So Zeke's was a little more of an expensive adoption than what a normal adoption would. A typical adoption is like $35,000, and someone looks at it like, how can we come that money? And one of our friends said, because we didn't have it all right away, and one of our friends like, don't let finances be in the way of you becoming parents if you think this is right. And he was exactly right. Like, you're amazing that people that kind of come through like right away that are like, we can help. What do you need? Blair went to a local bank in Cornelius, and he kind of told him her story and like, we'll do whatever you need, to make this happen, kind of thing. There are ways you can raise money, if you need to. We didn't have that kind of time, or we didn't have time to move a lot of money around. We needed that money in 24 hours.
Yeah. So what I was going to pick up the story is that next morning we said, yes, we're interested. And they said, okay, we will put you in the mix for this birth mom to consider you all. And we knew it was between us and 2 other couples or 2 other families. And but the caveat with that, to be looked at, you have to then wire the money within about 24 hours. And we weren't there. And so we pulled together a couple different resources. My family was pretty helpful. But, then we pulled the trigger on that, and we had everything sent, and we then waited, and we didn't know what was going to happen.
Tell the story about you in the bank.
Yeah, I'll never forget, sitting in the Wells Fargo branch in North Carolina, and sitting down, telling them I needed to wire X amount of money. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars,
$40,000.
Yeah, across the country, and we had no guarantees of where it's going, and I remember sitting there talking to the banker, and she goes, "What's this for?" And I told her what it was for, and I just burst out in tears. And she said, "Oh, it's going to be okay." I said, "Oh, no, I'm not worried about. It's not the money I'm worried about. This is knowing that we are taking a step toward our dream, and this is a reality, whether it's this situation or not." And it was just a really emotional thing at that moment, because I know we had spent the last 24 hours trying to figure out, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And what do we do?
There were days that it seemed almost impossible to ever be parents, or seemed like it was such a far-fetched dream. And now looking with 2 kids and potentially 3, everyone goes through that. And I think people probably go through that if they struggle with pregnancy. Yeah. But it's the same, right? You've got to persevere, and you got to believe in it. And, if you want it bad enough, it'll happen.
Well, and I remember driving from the bank. This is where Johnathon was talking about lunch. We had lunch that day.
Oh, that's right.
And at the bagel shop. And I had driven from the bank to go meet him at this lunch place. And I was praying like crazy on the ride there. And I saw him just start crying. We both started crying. And I said, if this is our situation, if this is our son, if this is meant to be, there's no reason why it shouldn't be.
And we wanted it very clear, right? Like, we were, in a weird way, we didn't want our adoption to fail, but if it was, we were okay with that. And here's why. Some people may be like, well, why would you say that? But we would always want to make sure that the birth parent, especially the birth mother, felt 100% comfortable in the decision she made. And that was so important to us.
So as you guys are talking, it's just my stomach is just like turning over, because the parallels between the clients that I work with that conceive naturally, and then the couples that I work with that adopt, and then the couples that I work with that have done like IUI and IVF, like that moment in the bank, Blair, like that is every parent that desires to have a child, like has that moment. Like even if it's, hey, I ovulated and we had sex tonight, and like I hope that maybe this would result in a baby. Like that moment where you're like, oh, we didn't use protection, and oh, I'm ovulating, you know? Or like that moment where you go in for IVF or IUI and it's implantation day, and you're just waiting then for a week, 2 weeks, like, am I pregnant, you know? And so I just wanted to like honor that for a minute, because no matter what route we take to become parents, there are just so many parallels. And that's a huge one. Like that waiting period when you're yearning for something and you've made a decision to run towards it, man, it feels the same no matter what the story is. So
yeah, that's really interesting, because I haven't thought about it from that perspective, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that I forget what day of the week that was. But then we knew Zeke was born within 2 weeks, so we knew a decision would have to be made fairly quickly. And so I knew whatever, we got to the weekend, and probably 3 days had passed at this point where we had, you know, we've committed everything at this point. We're just waiting for someone to say yes.
We were so anxious, we were barely talking to each other.
Well, Jonathan gets a little uptight when he doesn't have the situation completely under control. So this was completely out of his control and my control. But we had gotten to the weekend, and he really had talked himself into just not feeling well, I really believe. And so he decides, I'm going to urgent care. I got to go get, you know, something for whatever this is.
Clearly, I thought I had strep.
I'm dying right now, because this is like every dad ever is like right at the end of pregnancy, especially, or like, you know, right before the baby comes, like, you know,
I have no sympathy for them.
I'm sorry, dads kind of fall apart. So, okay, you're at urgent care.
Running around with WD-40, like spraying the locks on the doors, and I don't know why I did this. Remember, I went and got a load of mulch because I thought it was going to be the last time we ever had a nice looking like flower bed in our yard. And so I'm out there like getting mulch all day Saturday, spraying stuff on the doors, and we're running around like crazy trying to get stuff done. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm sick. We haven't heard from her. That's it. I'm sick. I got to go to the doctor.
So he goes to the doctor, and he's gone for a while. And this is probably the first time, you know, we're kind of away from each other while we're just waiting to hear something. And so I'm by myself, and the agency calls from out in Seattle, and
it was the agency was called A Child's Dream, and we hit it off with them great.
They were amazing.
They were amazing.
But this was like, I think, the first time we kept bugging them. They're like, we'll call you when we know something, you know what I mean? And we're like, gosh, we don't want to call too much and all this stuff. So anyway, so they call me.
It was very much like dating.
It very much so was like that.
Except you called me.
Because you're just waiting for the birth mom to make a decision?
Yes. We knew the birth mom was looking at us and 2 other families. And so we were like, oh man, we really want this. And, you know, we were 200% in, and I think we would have been devastated if it didn't work out. And I think Jonathan, honestly, was starting to talk himself into going down that dark road of like, this isn't going to work out.
I was sick, Blair. Relax.
So anyway, he's at urgent care, and they call me, and they say, well, where's Jonathan? We want to get you guys both on the phone. I'm like, and I didn't want to say he's sick or what. I was like, he's out running some errands. And they're like, well, we need to talk to both of you. I'm like, well, what is it? What is it? And they go, well, she's picked you. And I'm like, I'm jumping up and down in our living room by myself.
I'm getting my throat swabbed at urgent care.
Please tell me it was negative.
It was. Of course it was.
They said, we'd like to, you know, set up a call with you and the birth mom. And I'm like, oh, okay. I need to get in touch with Jonathan, and I'll call you back. And so that I get off the phone with them, and I'm trying to get Jonathan. I can't get him. I just cannot get him. I cannot get him. And this goes on and on and on.
Right?
Yeah, I did. I called urgent care and I said, "Where's John?" They said, "Well, he just left and I can't get him. I can't get him." So I'm standing out in the garage.
I had to stop by CVS and get some ginger ale.
And he pulls in and he gets out of the car and he's like so depressed. He's like, "Well, they tell me." I'm like, "I don't care what you have to say. She picked us." And he just fell to his knees and we just cried and laughed and got so excited.
I felt better.
He instantly felt better.
Instantly not sick. So it's kind of symbolic because I always joke too when people are like going through like a pregnancy. There a lot of times the dads like, you know, they gain the pregnancy weight too and they suddenly have nausea and like, you know, so you only had a 2-week window and I just want to say you had to go through it, Jonathan. So you were right there, you know.
I'm so thankful we did because now, you know, we talked to friends who are 9 months pregnant and they get, you know, 3 types of baby wrap warmers or whatever. We didn't have a damn crib when we had gone out there, and our best friend had bought us a crib. You know, the church community came on and dropped bags of clothes off. We didn't have anything, you know. And
Scott mom like got us a crib, and she like we didn't even know what kind she was picking out. We're just like, just do it, it's fine.
Right.
Like no time for a baby shower at all. I mean, This is like she's 38 weeks pregnant when she chooses you.
She was 38 weeks. Yep, that's right.
Wow. Okay. So what happens next? Because I remember getting on the phone with you guys. This is probably 2 weeks later. So just walk me through those last 2 weeks. I'm just so curious.
We're on the phone with you, right?
You what?
I think we talked to her when we were in the airport on the way out to California. So the next 2 weeks we're just like running around getting stuff done, right? We now have a nursery instead of a dog's bedroom. And we did paint it. Yeah. And your parents came up and really symbolic. They gave Blair the same bassinet kind of crib that he was raised in. So that was really fun. We put that in our bedroom, and then
it was really just kind of getting life in order. And we knew that Zeke was born in California, and so we were really trying to get things in order so we could pull the trigger when she called, because we knew that she wanted us to be there.
And she was great. She was updating us like how she was feeling every day, and you know, we wanted to make sure that she was comfortable and prepared to go to the hospital. So we sent some like a robe and a care package because we knew that we wouldn't be there, right? And she wanted us to kind of be one in this, which we're so grateful for.
Right. But it was really a matter of just trying to get everything in order so we'd be able to book flights instantly. So we'd be able to have someone come take care of the dog, someone come and do just the stuff that we didn't know how long we'd be gone, you know, once this happened, you know. And so it was trying to be prepared, you know, just have a hotel lined up just in case. And I remember constantly checking flights like, okay, what would be the best time of day for this to happen, to fly out to LA if we need to book a flight in 2 hours? You know what I mean? Like it's either going to be thousands of dollars, or it's going to be $400, you know? And so I knew. And so we had our bags packed and we had set them aside. And so we had a whole plan put together for when this happened. And we knew exactly what was going to happen.
We actually rehearsed it a little bit.
We had someone who was going to take us to the airport. We had it all planned out because we were ready to go. And
we talked to her the day before, and she said most likely she would be induced the following week, being her first pregnancy. And, you know, she had some back pain, but other than that, she was really doing great. And so we were confident that day. We went out on our boat with friends on Lake Norman.
Right. So we're out on why don't you tell that part of the story and I'll pick up from. So
we're out on the boat and we're just like, okay, this is like our last time without parents. Like, this is crazy. This is fun. And we're having drinks and we're enjoying a lunch. And then all of a sudden my phone rings and it's Brienne, Zeke's mom.
And she never really called us. We always kind of arranged it and we would call her.
Right.
And so we knew that when she called us, it was something.
And so your heart starts palpitating. She's like, hi. And she's just being amazing that she is. She says, I'm in labor and I'm going to be headed to the hospital soon. And I walked away from the table because we were with a group of friends. And I can't even get the words out when I'm back. And I'm like, we got to go right now. And that was the fastest boat ride back to our house that we've probably ever had.
Yeah.
And then
so we got back to the house and we on the way back, we're like, okay, you're going to go into the bedroom and you're going to get stuff in order. And I'm going to get on the computer and we're going to book these flights and get out there as soon as we can. And we're going to call our friend Robin, who is going to pick us up and take us to the airport. And so we get back to the house. I'm sitting down, looking for the flights, trying to book the next
got the flights
flight
really
to LA.
quick.
And so I said, okay, our flight's in 2 hours to LAX, and we got to be at the airport in an hour.
And in no time, Robin and Mark show up. The person that's taking care of her dog show up. The neighbor comes over to make sure what they need. Like, everyone was falling into place.
Yeah, and then except Jonathan, he wasn't falling into place.
The strep throat came back.
He comes running around the corner. He says, "Blair, what are we gonna do? We can't. How are we gonna do this? My hair's not ready. How am I gonna do this? What are we gonna do?" He's flipping out.
I was in a tank top and like swim trunks, and I was sweaty and nasty. I didn't even have time to shower, and then all of a sudden, I kept thinking, this is a first impression that she is basing us off looks alone. Oh my God, what am I gonna wear? What am I gonna put on? I'm gonna meet her at midnight after going an 8-hour flight to LA, and I literally can remember just grabbing clothes off the hanger and shoving them into my already over 50-pound suitcase.
So
was there anything for the baby in the suitcase, or was it just clothes?
Oh no! Well, yeah, we did.
We had a separate suitcase for just the baby. I had my own suitcase.
It was just a joke.
Oh.
I'm like, just a joke.
We don't joke about luggage.
Okay.
I'm the one in the airport line, like taking stuff out.
Oh my! So you guys got a flight so fast. I mean, I'm just like, I guess Charlotte to LA happens often, but I'm just surprised.
At the time, it was AirTran. It was whatever we could find.
We went from Charlotte to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Atlanta to LA.
And so we got to LA.
No. But we called Heidi when we were at the airport waiting for a flight because there was a layover in Atlanta. And I don't know. I remember the flight was going to take off at 10:39, and I was just like, "Can you help prepare us for this? Right? Like, what do we need to do and things like that?" And you were great. You talked a lot about coaching, breathing, like being supportive, a lot of like emotional contact, as well as like holding her hand if that's what she needs to see, make sure she has like a cold rag if that's what she needs, a lot of breathing techniques, which was really helpful. And it kind of put me at ease a little bit to be like, okay, I think we can do this.
2 dad doulas. I love it. And I just wanted to interject right there because Jonathan, you guys, I think I talked to Jonathan on the phone, right?
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not even remember this, but my takeaway from that conversation is I just remember thinking, Lord God, please let her have a vaginal birth, because the volunteer work that I had done with some of the crisis teen pregnancy centers here, the number one goal for moms that were choosing life and, kind of being a vessel to parenthood for the adopting parents is to not have that scar forever in a long healing process. Yeah. So I remember thinking, getting off the phone with you, and I think I had said, tried to give you a couple things to try to help her avoid a C-section, but it is of the utmost importance to try to have a vaginal birth when you are, if at all possible, when a mom is passing their child, over to the parents. So it's a hard recovery for a C-section and then a lifetime scar. So I just remember saying a little prayer for Zeke's mom, and then you got on that plane from Atlanta to LA. And so then what happened when you landed? Or actually, no, tell me about the airplane ride.
Well, I had been wanting to read a book, Best Baby on the Block, and I had my own freak out moment, I think, once I got on the plane. Like,
he sped read the book to the plane ride.
Yeah, I read the book on the plane ride because I was flipping out on how do you take care of a baby.
I was taking pictures and trying to document it all and telling anyone that would listen on that plane that we were going to get our son.
Yes. He was telling everyone, we're going to be dads. We're going to get a baby. You know what I mean? And
And I still had my swim trunks on.
And I'm reading this book about the 5 S's of how you handle an infant, the shushing and all that stuff.
And he literally, at one point, he looks at me and he goes, Jonathan, practice with me. What are the 5 S's? It's swaddling.
Yeah.
It's swishing. It's soothing. And I go, Blair, can you just stop? We're about to be dads.
No, I am a big supporter of that book, and I believe it's, I tell anybody it saved our, it was amazing for us as far as how to take care of a baby. And we used it with both Zeke and Cash, and I tell everybody who listens, it's the best book.
Okay, awesome. So say the name of it again, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Best Baby on the Block.
Best Baby on the Block. Okay. Yeah. Now we're going to take a short break to just share a few things with you, and we'll be right back with our guest. I'm so excited to tell you about my first book that I wrote that is launching this summer. It's a 42-week guide to your pregnancy. It's a collection of birth stories. It has a ton of doula advice from all of the questions that my clients have asked me over the last 14 years. It has hysterical partner tips that you will want to read to your partner. And it has journaling prompts because nobody has time to write 20 pages in their journal about their pregnancy. So I've taken the liberty to give you some prompts of things that I think you might want to remember back on after the baby's born. So again, you can go to birthstory.com and pre-order a copy today, and it would mean the world to me.
And so we get to LAX and we land, and there's a voicemail on Jonathan's phone.
And the voicemail says that she was sent home because she was in labor, but she wasn't close to having the baby. So if you guys haven't got on the plane yet, you can stay home, take your time, and we'll be in touch in a few days. And we're like, oh,
wow.
Well, we like LA. We like Santa Monica. This will be good. And I was more just so excited that I could sleep and that I didn't smell like lake water. And so we got a rental car and we Googled how far in between LAX and Bakersfield.
We're sitting at LAX in the parking garage of the rental car, and we're like, John goes, where are we going to go tonight? And we're trying to figure out where we can use some points for a hotel because we're probably going to be stuck in LA for about 3 weeks.
Well, I kind of got excited at that point. I was like, do you want to go to Santa Monica? And he's like, no, it's almost 1 a.m. Like, we need to find a hotel.
So we said, okay, we're just going to go stay at this whatever hotel that Marriott, whatever. And
it was the Great Wolf. The
Six Flags. And so we go there, and it's probably like 4 a.m., whatever. And so we just go get some sleep. And about 7 a.m., we probably were sleeping 2 hours. At 7 a.m., our phone rings again.
And it's her, and she says that she's still in labor, and that if that continues to happen through the day, she would go to the hospital. However, she would really like to meet us and have dinner with us and kind of start our family together, because we were very open, and we always looked at it as one family versus adoptive and birth family. Like, no, we're just family. Like, can we just be family? Can we just be one and have Zeke, our children's, whether that's Zeke, Cash, or any child, their best interest in mind? So we said, yeah, that'll be great. But we were kind of excited because once we heard from her again, we felt reassured everything was okay, and we went back to sleep. And then I remember we had like this amazing hotel breakfast, and we got ready and we were kind of heading there to have dinner with her, and she called and said that her water had broke, and she was headed to the hospital. And so all the way from that area to Bakersfield, it was probably about an hour to 2 hours. Blair and I rehearsed, like, we're literally going to meet her and her family, and she's going to be in labor, and Blair had never witnessed labor, nor had he ever seen it. And I was like, she may be very vocal. And she may be frustrated. She may be happy. She may be sad. You don't know, like, what emotions that's going to bring. And so, but this is how we're going to respond. And this is how we're going to be, because she's really, like, meeting us right away. And so we get there, and we got there, and she wasn't there yet. She actually
we beat her to the hospital.
We beat her to the hospital.
High five.
And so the really kind nurse said, I'm going to be her nurse. We understand that she's coming. And why don't you guys go get your car seat at Babies R Us? And so that we did, and we came back, and we definitely could tell there was more activity in the triage area of labor and delivery. And they go, oh, okay, we're just checking her now to make sure everything's good. And she's here. And the nurse comes back and says, we're having a baby today. So Blair's like, oh, I got to go get the camera. I got to get all the paperwork. I got to get the diaper bag. And so he goes out to the rental car. And I'm like standing there, and I can hear her in the lobby. Obviously, she's in pain and she's having contractions. And the door's open, and they push her right by. And I'm like, hey, I'm Johnathon. And then her mom like hugs me, and she's like, oh my God, you're our family. It's Zeke's dad. And like there's this embrace, and we're tearing up. But there's no Blair. He's in the car. And so off we go. And they get ready for the epidural. And all I can think about is, this is great, but where is Blair? Blair's nowhere to be found. He's going to kill me. We practiced all this. And of course, like I couldn't just let her walk by. Like I basically wanted to jump on the stretcher with her to be like, hey, it's me. This is the person you picked to raise your son. So,
now, and she was, her water was broken. You could hear her. So she was deep in labor, like ready for the epidural.
Ready for the epidural. Yep, that's right. Yep. So anyway, once she got the epidural, she was very calm, very mellow, and just really wanted to hang out and watch TV and learn about us. Like she was more worried about what we needed, and we're like, no, let's like, and that's her personality, very loving, very, just that's her in general, like very making sure everyone else is okay. And like we're like, what do you need? And so at one point, I have this weird thing where I love hospital cafeteria food. And so I'm like, Blair, let's go get some food. I wasn't even hungry, but I just like the thought of going to eat at a cafeteria in the hospital. And so I just wanted to give them some space too, because her mom and her grandmother were there. And, it was like we had known them forever. It was beautiful. And so we start walking towards the cafeteria, and I'm getting really excited about my tuna sandwich from the cafeteria. And my phone rings, and it's the room. And I'm like, oh no, she's changed her mind. And they're like, you better get back here because your baby's about to be born. And so, mad dash through the hallway. And we're back. And we open the door, and stuff is happening fast.
And the doctor walks in, and he says, get ready, boys. This is going to be quick.
And so we kind of had it planned out, and she had a birth plan that we were respecting, where we were going to stand and where it was going to happen. And that all went out the window. Like that didn't really happen. Blair helped hold up one of her legs, and I was up at her head. And so
reminder, Johnathon is a paramedic, and he is used to dealing with people and medical things. I can't handle a paper cut. So there we are.
You should have been totally flip-flop positions, but this is awesome. All birth plans go out the window regardless, so this is amazing.
So they put the oxygen on her to help her breathe, and I'm kind of like rubbing her hair, and it came so natural, and she's holding my hand, and she's holding her mom and grandmother's hand, and I can remember it like it happened 5 minutes ago, and it's so beautiful. And like you want to be respectful because, there is no modesty in labor. Right. But I want to be as respectful as we can, but like, we're in it, right? Like we're there. And so, and she's like kind of breathing, and I'm kind of like, take a deep breath. You're doing great. You're doing great. And she starts to crown, and Blair is making more noise than she is at this point. And he's holding my hand to the point where it's hurting. He's gripping it so bad. And he goes, are you ready? He whispers in the chaos, are you ready for this? And I'm like, well, now is probably not the time to tell me that you're not, right? Like, Blair, that's the head. Like, I don't get it. And he's like, I think he's a midget. I go, what? And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, his head, it's so small. And about that time, before I could even get it out, she pushed, and Blair arched his back up against the wall as if he was the one pushing. And all he kept saying was, whoa, whoa, whoa. And his woes just got louder until Zeke's head appeared. And then
my
he
goodness.
quickly came out, and I had cut a few umbilical cords from as a paramedic, you've got to spend time in labor and delivery, but then you also have delivered some babies. And so I was so nervous that they gave us each scissors to cut, and we were shaking so much. Blair cut his and I couldn't cut mine.
That is so precious, Jonathan. Oh my goodness.
And then it was important for us that they bond right away, and as it was for her. And so they did skin to skin. And then he came over, they checked him, and then we instantly started doing skin to skin with him.
Uh-huh.
And he still has the same face when he cries.
Uh-huh.
You don't know, in every state is different, like how adoption works. Like no adoption is that your child right away.
Right.
The mother still has very much legal rights, as she should. And it can be, some states it can be 7 days, some it can be 3. Minimum, I think the most minimal state's 3, and then California, where we are, the mother can choose anywhere from 3 days to 365 days to make a final decision. And so that's scary because you want to be a parent, but you want to make sure everything's done right for the child. And so everything we've read, and maybe you suggested this, I honestly don't remember, but we wanted to get her some food. Like she was ready to eat. And the cafeteria was closed, and so she wanted Taco Bell. So Blair and I went and we got Taco Bell. And we get back, and she, in a very surreal, very memorable, very special, she's like, I want to give you your son, but just promise me you'll always let him know I loved him so much to let him go. And, that's it's powerful. She's giving us a part of her.
Yeah.
And that was, I will never, that's real. That's happening right then. And, things were happening quick. She's moved to the mother baby unit. And
it goes back to what you were saying about she's always been very respectful of our role and of what she perceives that role to be. And it's always been so amazing, and we've been so fortunate. And I think that was vivid.
Well, I think that's the thing, like looking even as I'm talking back of that, is that transition is fast, right? And a lot of times you may not have control over that, but they were full, the labor and delivery unit. And so it was moving fast. You were going to a mother baby unit when all we wanted to do was sit in that moment. We didn't want to leave the room. We didn't want to leave her. We didn't want to leave him. We didn't want to leave her family. We just wanted to be still and be there. And that wasn't happening. It was moving fast. And so I can remember them putting him in the nursery cart, and they push us up to the same floor. And she said the birth plan was that we would bond with him in a separate room, and she wanted that as well. And I can remember that night, she wanted to get out of the hospital relatively soon. And that night, I heard her crying. And I'm like, I'm not okay with this. One of us, we said, one of us are going to stay with Zeke, and one of us are going to go and be with her, because it's not us and her. Right. It's not us versus her. It's an us, right? We're equal in this together. And if she has pain, we want to feel pain. If she has hurt, we want to know about that. We want open, clear, organic communication in this, because all we care about is Zeke's best interest. And part of his best interest is loving and being there for his mom, right, who gave him life. And so I can remember just like holding her and hugging her and say, we're going to get through this together. And she didn't want us to know that she was upset, but we knew she was upset. And so the next morning she left. And
she came over to our room and spent some time with Zeke.
She spent some time with Zeke. It was very emotional. She was by herself. We were all crying. And, we met someone on a gurney that's in labor, and now she's walking out of the hospital with a part that's not attached to her, right? And that's symbolic. That's powerful. And she's trusting us with a part of her to raise. And I think everyone gets into adoptions for different reasons, but it's so important to know, like, you know, that it's so healthy to be one in this situation, you know. When the birth mother chooses adoption, she's already choosing to make the best decision, what she thinks is for the child, but probably the hardest decision she'll ever make of her life. Mm-hmm. And so she said she was discharged and said goodbye. And I didn't really know much about what happened after that. We were sleep deprived. We had been up all night. And we were just like really tired. And I thought, okay, we're going to go home the next day. We need to get some sleep. So in this hospital chair and bed's not really cutting it. And Blair will have a good story to tell you in just a second. So we asked if Zeke could go to the nursery, and they're like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We only have the NICU. And so, okay.
So Jonathan proceeds to get comfy in the patient's bed.
I was tired.
And under the blankets and asking for ginger ale and asking for ice chips. And
well, I rung the nurse call bell because I was tired. And I said, hey, can I get some ginger ale and ice chips? And she looked really confused because it wasn't the nurse that was taking care of us on the mother and baby unit, because here are two dads and a baby on a mother and baby unit. She just looked at us, said, okay, shook her head and walked out of the room. She was really confused. You know, but it was, I don't know. You really thought that was funny that I was, Blair's like, you acted like you gave birth, Jonathan.
Yeah, right.
So so she was allowed to leave the hospital, but were you guys allowed to leave the hospital?
Not right away, no, because he had to stay.
Right.
A vaginal delivery there had to stay 48 hours.
Okay, so that was just a medical, like just to keep checking on the baby or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So she came back the next day and met with us and met with him, and it was great. And we knew we were kind of like leaving that day. And you have to take a mandatory class, and sometimes it's just like checking boxes about like postpartum and making sure like the car seat was good. The car seat was a separate thing, but Blair not being a medical person, we went into this really bizarre room, kind of a conference room, and they all had pads on the chairs because, you know, most moms that are sitting right beside us just gave birth, and there's some things that are happening down there, right? And they might need those pads, but they're Blair.
Wait, they made you go through the postpartum class?
They did.
I'm so confused. Okay.
And talking about breastfeeding and everything.
We had to watch the breastfeeding video.
We're like, right on. Here we are.
It's like, we had to check a box.
Oh, my goodness.
We didn't really fit into the box, so I'm like, Blair, we should take one of those pads home for a souvenir.
Right. And some health insurance somewhere paid for this, too.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. Even better. I have a question for you guys. Did Zeke's birth mom did she want to nurse, or did she nurse at all in those first moments when you went to go get Taco Bell?
No, she did not. And most adoption agencies actually encourage that not to happen. Medically, that's a good thing to happen. Bonding, that's a very tough thing.
Yeah. So I was curious.
So is circumcision, right? So like you don't make that decision right away, typically in adoption, because some families may want it and some may not. And if the birth family wants it, but the adoptive family doesn't, or vice versa, it can delay the process.
Okay. Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that. So
They asked when Zeke had it done if we wanted to go watch.
Did you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't need to see that because we did the bell curve with Zeke. Oh, you don't want me to tell this part?
Well, I'm sure Zeke's going to really enjoy this podcast when he's older.
But it's true. So this happens in a relationship often where Blair looks at me, and it will probably happen one time on this podcast. He just did the look instead of verbally doing it. He gave me the look like, Jonathan, stop.
I'm just thinking.
But this is great. Like, so we went out on our first dinner date, and his foreskin fell off. And but Blair's mom thought it would be okay to put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in his baby bowl, which we threw away. I mean, that's awkward. But I'm like, so like 2 days later, I'm like, what's this? And she's like, oh, I saved it. I thought you would want that.
Oh my
Foreskin. No big deal.
I don't know anyone who has their foreskin in their baby book.
Zeke doesn't either, just so you know.
Okay. Thank goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. So when you got out of this nursing postpartum class, they actually let you just leave the hospital at that
Well,
point.
so
Right?
no, not exactly. We had to wait. We waited a little bit for a social worker to come to say that all the paperwork
Right.
had been signed. Because she had to sign paperwork, but she could not legally sign until 72 hours. And you cannot sign in the hospital in the state of California. You have to sign once you're discharged. And so that brings another thing up, right, for the delay if it is a C-section versus a vaginal delivery. And every state is different, and every state has different laws, which is very confusing for adoptive families when you're looking at states to adopt and what states are pro-adoption and which may have more difficult restrictions kind of things. So when the social worker came and said that, I mean, she was amazing. Right away, she wanted us to make sure he had our last name. His first name was a big deal to her. And we wanted to make sure that we honored that. And so Zeke is Zeke named by his mom. And but she wanted to make sure that he had our last name, and like anything like legal, she would, if they referred to her, she would just refer them to us. Which, talking to the adoption worker is that we said, she's like, literally, this was like, if there's a perfect case, this was literally perfect, like textbook of what you want one to look. You guys had an understanding, but there was so much mutual respect, and a lot of times there's not. And often, sadly, that comes from the adoptive families. Like, they feel like once the baby's born, they have full control, and that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And you know, what I think that's an important question to ask is like, why are you in this? And that it's important for the child. So anyway, I went and put a car seat in a rental car and probably sweated out 10 pounds while Blair packed everything up, and we left Bakersfield. Well, we got in the car seat, and she was at the hospital to meet us when we left. That was important for us and for her. And so we left the hospital. We made a few stops, and then we had our hotel right outside of LA because we wanted to be close to the airport, because you have something called ICP laws, which are, what's that?
ICPC?
ICPC, yeah, which is like travel laws with traveling with a newborn from state to state. And so
basically we have to get approval from California to be able to travel, but we also needed approval from North Carolina to travel. So California had signed off on it, but we knew we needed to wait for North Carolina. And so Zeke, I forget what day of the week he was born on.
last Saturday.
Okay. So we left the hospital around Monday or Tuesday, and so we were waiting. We were waiting for North Carolina to sign off on this. Every day we were waiting, and it could have been
our watershed community and friends Dan and Rochelle had just adopted, and they took 3 weeks in Arizona. So we were prepared to stay for 3 weeks. Right. I was really excited about our adventures in LA.
Yeah, but keep in mind, it's us who've never been parents and we're sitting in a hotel. You don't, I always joke because we were not able to sterilize, bottles, and
we didn't have that fancy diaper warmer.
We couldn't warm milk. We couldn't do anything that people do normally now.
We had that housekeeper help us change that. And Blair was great. He found the perfect hotel with the help of my sister, perfectly located in front of a Target behind a Walmart, just in case one didn't have what the other we needed. And so we're on the way to like LA with her newborn, and I'm in the back seat, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh God, Blair, I didn't Google like how long a child can stay in a car seat, like a newborn. I don't know. Blair, we have to pull over right now. We got to get this kid out of here, make sure he's okay. And so that we did.
I think the more time went on, we started to doubt. We weren't surrounded by our family or anybody.
We were also sleep deprived.
Yeah, and it was getting hard because
it was just
we were questioning everything. Are we doing this right? We got nervous at the smallest little sounds, and we just we were going nuts. I think.
Well, and being a paramedic, you never forget the kids that you have to do CPR on that unfortunately die from SIDS, and
right.
I was so scared that was going to happen to us, and I think it's every parent's nightmare that could happen, and that's a real fear. But actually being involved in that and doing CPR on a SIDS baby, it's the worst. And so you want to do everything right, and all of a sudden this doubt flooded our minds, like, oh my God, can we take care of this kid?
Yeah. Most people keep their babies inside a house for weeks before they go out for the first time.
Right.
We're out when he's 2 days old, and we're going to Chinese restaurants or wherever, just because we have to do something. And so it got to be Friday, and we finally.
Well, let me back up. We got a little more comfortable through the week, and I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. We got this down. The baby Bajorn thing's fitting pretty good, and on both of us, and like, all right, he's doing okay, and we're doing good, and we have enough diapers, and all is good. And we made it out to dinner one night and had food, because the hotel when we got there had no food. So everything was good. And so we decided we were going to just go like take a nice little leisurely stroll through Santa Monica Pier, because how memorable would that be with our first kid? Is what we didn't anticipate is the California winds in July. And so we get out of the car, and literally every woman during her yoga class, as they see Blair put an infant into his baby Bajorn thing that he's carrying. No, the wrap. You were doing the wrap. And
very naturally for a 1 week
they
old.
all like came over like, are you okay? Do you need anything? Is everything all right? And we're like, yeah, it's fine. Why are you on us like this? And so, but then as we started to walk, the wind picked up, and I don't know, we got nervous, and we got back in the car and said, oh my God, what were we doing?
Yeah.
And so we went back to the hotel, and then then the next day we went and bought a stroller. Remember that?
Well, we were in line. We were at Babies R Us. It was a Friday afternoon, and it got to be about 2:00 California time, and we knew, okay, well, East Coast, it's 5:00 in North Carolina, so they're not going to approve us to come back today. So we're stuck here for the weekend, and we were staying near the Ronald Reagan Library, so we thought, well, we'll go there for the weekend, but we're going to need a stroller.
But my favorite picture from that Toys R Us is probably of me standing in front of the lactation room, because I went to change Zeke in the men's room, and there's no baby changing tables. And they're like, oh, you can go in the lactation room. Like, sure. So I just proudly went in there and smiled at the other mom that was in there, and changed his diaper. And then what happened?
So we're standing in line, and we're like, well, we'll just get the stroller because we're going to need it for the weekend because we got to do something. And our attorney calls, and he says, North Carolina's approved you. So, and we said, so what does that mean? He said, you guys are clear to go home at any time. So we turned around, and we took that stroller, and we put it back on the shelf and got right out of there and went back to the hotel and got in our lobby and book flights, book a red eye to come back to Charlotte, because we just wanted to be back to family as quick as we could.
Is it weird I can't remember all that?
Really?
Yeah,
No,
sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And no kidding.
I remember it vividly, though.
I can remember on the way to the hotel, I'm like, Blair, pull over really quick. We have to get a picture in front of the Beverly Hills sign.
We did. Beverly Hills sign. And so we drove past there to get a quick picture with him by Beverly Hills. And because, we didn't know what the future was going to be like. And
yeah.
And so we made it to the airport, and I dropped Jonathan off with the bags and a baby, and I go return the car, and I said, good luck.
I remember that was so stressful.
And we, in this day and age today, this is not a big deal. But back then, you're talking, 6 years ago.
But so much has changed in 6 years.
2 men with a baby, a lot of people look at you like, what's going on? And a baby that's only, 5 days old. People look at you like, what's going on? Why is that happening? Why are you getting on a red eye flight?
Literally had a lady with a fanny pack on chase us into the family restroom, and then stood out and waited. Like, do you guys need anything? Is everything okay?
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, what did they think was happening?
Well, I think most people.
It's curiosity. They just can't.
They can't wrap their arms around 2 men taking care of a baby. Whether they're married or not. It's
And a new
society tells them something else for whatever, or did. I don't think so much.
Right,
now,
but also even in today, you're not often do you probably see a newborn in an airport.
Right.
You know, so that is like, oh, what's going on there?
Right. So we got a lot of questions and just people like curious, and us, we were like, oh yeah, here's the story, blah 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 blah, and then 3 hours later they're like, oh, thanks.
I'm sort of surprised Jonathan didn't have like T-shirts made.
Oh, right.
I should have.
Right.
I kind of relate it to like, I find it so weird when people go up and feel like that they have the right to touch a pregnant lady's belly. Like when I've seen that happen once, and I'm like, you don't have that right. That's their personal space. And I felt like very much like that. Like people just felt they had the right to come up and see what was going on.
And you're like, don't breathe on my newborn.
Yeah, right.
We very much were like that. We were flying back on a red eye, and we were so desperate to get back to Charlotte just to be around our friend and family, just so we could, someone could tell us, look, you guys are doing okay.
And one thing that's important before you fly is that you have to get medically cleared with an infant under the 14 days of age. And so that sounds really complicated, but all it is that a physician needs to lay eyes on that. It doesn't even have to be a pediatrician. We went to an urgent care and found a doctor to just listen to his lungs and say that he was healthy to fly and that he had good oxygenation saturation. So we had to keep that paperwork with us, and we had no problems in California, and we flew to Atlanta. And in Atlanta, the flight attendant just couldn't believe that we were flying with a 5-day-old baby and told us we couldn't get on the flight. And
from Atlanta to Charlotte.
And we're like, no, you don't understand. We just got off a red eye. We have a now 6-day-old. We've had no sleep. We have our family waiting for us at the airport. We're going to get on that plane. And she's like, well, I just don't feel comfortable. And I'm like, we want to talk to the pilot. And he understood, and he was sympathized with us, and we got on the plane.
Oh my goodness. I was thinking, well, you didn't get medically cleared from Georgia.
Well, right.
Just to make an added layer of complication. But
well, that's what we said to them. We just flew 4 hours on your airline, so you guys have a problem. We're getting on this plane. You know what I mean?
They've already set a precedent. So, okay, so I have like a very vivid memory of Facebook on the next moment. And so I just want to hear, and clearly it was just the beginning of your story, but the end of Zeke's birth story with arriving home in Charlotte.
Well, when we landed and we got off the plane and came down to baggage claim, and my parents were there, and some friends
all of our families and friends were there.
Our church community, and just people who, some of our colleagues from work were there, and just there to just love on us. And
yeah. I just remember I've seen the video a couple times and just cried ugly tears,
I'm even talking about we're both Blair's getting choked up, and it's so special that we, it was just.
Yep. So beautiful to be part of that moment. Well, I have one last question for you guys, and that's what was or is your favorite baby product? So if there are new parents, or especially new adopting parents, and they're listening, and what could you share with them about what your favorite go-to baby product was?
I'm not going to be able to be any help on this because Jonathan did everything.
I feel like you're really good at that.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, my biggest advice to families is, look, you don't need all the fancy stuff. You just don't. You just need a bunch of onesies and diapers. You know what I mean? And a lot of love. You know what I mean?
Someone said to me,
a lot of patience just for your.
I bought all these really nice, I wouldn't say nice, but just cute newborn clothes. And let's be honest, all we used was the little nightgowns that we pulled up. But I think my favorite is probably the Dr. Brown bottles. I loved them. They were great to clean, great to use, and that's probably.
Yeah. The only thing I'd probably say is I really got into making the boys' baby food, and I still make their applesauce, and I try to make a lot of their food. But we This was Jonathan's idea. Is like, let's make the baby food.
So this is what happened. I ordered the baby bullet, and then I had a recipe book, and I go, Blair, every Sunday we're going to do this. It's going to be bonding. It's going to be great. I'll help peel the apples. You can boil them. And
butternut squash and all this stuff.
I had all these recipes. And so like I did that like maybe the first 15 minutes on the first Sunday. And I was like, oh, we can go to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. It's okay.
He said, this is too much work. And after the first week, I was like, no. I was really into it. And I was like, I want to do this all the time. And it branched out. And I really believe it's led to our boys having healthy eating habits now. But, I would say if you have an inclination to create your own baby food, do it, because it's one of the best things you can give your kids. And you learn so much about, what you're actually giving them. And I'm not a health nut, crazy, big, you got to do everything plant-based. I'm not, but I really believe in that stuff now. And it was so much easier, and I got so much joy out of it. And I'm so proud of our boys now when they ask for, can you make the homemade applesauce, or can we have the broccoli like this? And, I really like that. And so if you have any kind of desire for that, run with it, because it is rewarding.
I hope that they give you 4 kids at a minimum. After I hear things like that. I made homemade applesauce one time, and then Max made this face at me that was like it was just the most disgusting thing ever. And I remember being like angry at my 3-month-old. Like, how dare you? How dare you give me that face? And I never made baby food again.
Oh my God. I mean,
well, you guys are incredible, and I'm so thankful to have heard the very extended version of this beautiful story, because I'd only had snippets of it over the years. And so I think there's a lot to learn from your story, and anyone that's listening, I know is going to take away a lot, and hopefully people had some tissues too. So, and then
I think it's important to know, it's be flexible. And then back to that, the one thing you said, what my favorite probably baby product was, it was the Phil and Ted's clip-on high chair that you could take that was portable, because I never really liked using high chairs everywhere else.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite. We use that because it works up to 35 pounds. We use it forever. That's probably one of my favorite things.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I'll put links to all those in the show notes if anybody wants to take a look at any of those products. I'm a big fan of Dr. Brown's too. And that bottle warmer, I think that was probably one of my favorite ones too. So, well, I'm really excited to hear what happens on the next, phase of this journey. And I would love to have you guys back on to talk about your adoption story with Cash, your other son too. But before you guys go, Blair, do you want to share, or do you want to, should I link in the show notes about the state of adoption?
Right. Well, in my profession as a TV news anchor, I've been doing a lot of deep dives on topics, and I'd done a couple primetime specials, 30-minute and hour-long specials, and these are specials that I anchor and produce, and so I get really deep into them. And so the staff came to me and said, "Why don't you do something on adoption?" And I thought, "Really? Huh? Oh, okay." and so we did. This past November, did 30 minutes on the state of adoption and what that looks like from a private standpoint, but also from a foster care standpoint. And it also looks at, what's happening on a national level and what's happening in Washington to, make the playing field a little more level for everyone, so that cost isn't so far out of reach. And so the process isn't so overwhelming. And so there's been a lot of support through the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption based out of Columbus, Ohio, and some advocates in Washington and some lawmakers. And so, we did that program in November. It's still online at boston25.com/state of adoption.
Perfect. Okay. And I'll link to that in the show notes, because I think I watched it, and I think everyone should watch it that is interested in adoption. So
thank you.
Well, you guys are awesome. I love you.
You're awesome.
Thanks for having us. It's really kind of you.
Thank you for listening to Birth Story. My goal is you will walk away from each episode with a clear picture of how labor and delivery might go, and that you will feel empowered by the end of your pregnancy to speak up, plan, and prepare for the birth you want, no matter what that looks like. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I need your help to spread the word. If you know anyone who is pregnant, is trying to become pregnant, or just loves a good birth story, if you could send them to iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or